Hello again, my name is Raymond Lopez, and today we're gonna focus on the fourth part of sequential art. If you remember the first part I showed you how to draw the human head. We took 4 steps in learning how to do it, and then we applied some value to it. The second part, we drew the spear, and we also worked on value. And the third part, we worked on 2 things. We worked on color theory and character development. In color theory, you learn a few things. You learn to apply marker, pen, and color pencil. And character development, I basically showed you how to do a character from scratch, and also the use of action figures to help you with the process. And hopefully this last lesson will make things clear for you when it comes to sequential art. Before we start, we're gonna go over the tools that I'll be using. These tools, you can basically, they're very, you can find them anywhere, and for the most part, they might be lying at your home or even in your classroom. First thing you need, it's a ruler, very important. You have an angle, clear angle. Different types of pins, also Sharpie markers will work. Large marker for larger areas. A smaller Sharpie or a Sharpie pen for small details. A simple black pen, and other types of dark markers or pens that you might have. The other thing that would be useful is pencils. I prefer to use mechanical pencils, but any type of pencil will do. Eraser is important. A brush. If you remember, every time I will erase something, I will use the brush. That way my hands will not smudge my art. There's different types of brushes. There's this type, the long one, and a smaller one. You can get these brushes at your local art stores like Michael's. The other thing that will come in handy is different types of protractors. You have this one. This one has a semicircle inside, which is great for drawing semicircles if you need to. Here we have this protractor that has small holes in here that you can also draw into the comic book panel. And as well, there's one in here. And last, a compass, if you need to make circles. Alright, now let's go ahead and get started. Here we have an example of sequential art. This is a comic book. It's called of the Uncanny X-Men. And as you can see, if you look at these 2 pages, pretty much follow the same format. This one here has 2 panels on the top. This one has 1 panel, and the bottom has 2 panels. If you look at the next one over, it has 2 panels, 1 panel, and 1 panel. So basically, you don't have to follow the same panels. You can change it. Let's look at a few more. Now notice on this one. Notice how they have the same number of panels. They have 5 panels, but it's different when you look at the ones we first saw. It has the first panel, a long one. The second panel is long but wider, and it has 3 panels at the bottom. Let's look at other books. Here is Conan the Cimmerian. Let's look at panels. This one also has 5 panels. This one starts with 2, 1, and 2. This one here has 6 panels. We have 2, 1, and 3. And again, you don't have to follow the format. It can be 2 panels or even 1 panel. It just depends on the story that you have written and how much of the story you want to demonstrate in your storyboard. Let's go ahead and look at one more. Now this is Spawn. Let's look at a few. Now when we look at this one, we notice this page has 6 panels. The first line has 4 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you notice on this one here has no words. Again, some panels you really don't need to need to add words. It just depends what you're looking for. And here, and here. This might be a little too grotesque for younger kids. So just be careful what kind of comic book you show your students. Now, here's the last one that I'm gonna demonstrate. If you look at here, we have 3 panels on this page. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, let's get started. I'm gonna do a 3-panel design. And I'm gonna do a far shot, a medium shot, and a close shot of the Earth. Sometimes when you want to start a comic book, you probably want to have something written down, or in other case you just might want to just have it drawn and then you can write it later. I'm gonna go ahead and do the drawing first and I'll add my phrases later. So first thing first, I'm gonna do the long panels. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw my first panel here. Here's my first panel. Now I'm gonna go ahead and draw my second panel. And last, the third panel. Now what I'll do first before I begin, I'm gonna go ahead and just adjust my panels. I'm gonna get my ruler and I'm just gonna eyeball it. And I'm just gonna make my lines a tad darker. Again, you can measure if you want to. I think it will be helpful if you do. I'll go to the other side. So now I just need to connect the inside to finish off my panels. I can erase any unwanted lines later, so I'm not going to worry too much on the cosmetic sides for now. After I do this demonstration, then I'll go ahead and show you the 5-panel format. There are several ways you can do it. This way. Okay, next thing I want to do, I'm just going to lightly start cleaning it up. Again, this is a great exercise before you start the actual canvas. You can have a short story read to your students, and then from there you can ask your students to do a 3-panel story of what they heard. Okay. First thing first, I'm gonna pretend I'm in outer space and I'm looking at the Earth. So That's what I'm going to start. So if I am up in space looking at the Earth, first thing first, I say, well, I can start with the Earth here. And then when I go to the next panto, I can even go a tad larger. And then for my last panto, I can even go larger. Like so. And to make things interesting, I can put the moon over here. A small moon. Unfortunately, I cannot put the moon here because every time we get closer and closer, this tends to go out more. So that's one of the things we need to be careful. Because if I draw a huge moon here, it doesn't work well with my Earth. So have that in mind. I can actually draw it smaller. Put it over here. That way we can see the moon is way out. And over here we'll put it more in the corner and we draw it a tad smaller. Alright, now next thing we want to do, we want to add some details to the Earth as I'm looking down at it. So I'm just going to add a few lines here. Like that. This can be the Earth. This can be the ocean. Here it's going to be closer, so I'm going to come back, just add a few lines like that, and I do it here again. Who knows what state I'm drawing? But that's the beauty of it. You're creating your own world. Let's go ahead and draw something here on the side as well. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw a few stars. To do that, I'm just going to come back and do something like this. Randomly putting a few hints of light. And then I can start inking. That's the next process. Next process is to start making your lines, your pencil lines, dark using a black pen. I'm just gonna get a regular pen, maybe this one, because this one has a nice flow of ink. And I'm gonna go ahead and start darkening the lines. This is the inking process. And as I'm doing that, I'm just going to make a few adjustments to my line. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. I'm going to come back here and make this a tad smaller, closer to the edge, like that. Do the same to the other one here. Come back over here. And I'm going to come back here and do something like that. Okay. Then we'll do the other one here. Now once you do the inking process, next thing you want to do, you want to get your color pencils, your markers, and you want to start coloring your work. Like that. Now this part here. And next I'm gonna go ahead and ink the moon. Okay. Now before I start with anything, the other thing I also need to start inking is my panels. Because again, it cannot stay just like the way it is. So let's go ahead and finish that. To do that, I'm just going to switch to this basic pen. It doesn't release too much ink. One of the things you need to be careful is depending on the pen that you use. For example, if I would use this pen here, it will tend to smudge the paper because this will release too much ink. So if I quickly go like that, I have the tendency to smudge it. So you have to be careful on what type of pens that you will use. So I'm just going to use this basic Paper Mate black pen. So I'm going to come back and just darken this. In this case, I can get 2 shots in one. Just like that. Come back here. Flip it over to the other 2. I like to use a clear angle because I can also see I can see my drawing as opposed to a ruler. If I have a ruler, for the most part it does cover my drawing, and sometimes I can't really line it up. So that's one of the reasons why I use an angle, a clear angle, because you can see through it and you can see your actual drawing. Here I go, connecting these 2 here. You can pre-make your panels and then you can give them to your students. That way students don't have to make them, or you can show your students how to make them and they can make their own panels, and they can decide if they want to use the 5-panel method, 3 panels, 2 panels, or even 1. It's pretty tricky to do a storyboard in one, but it's possible. A good example is your local newspaper. Towards the back they do have comic book strips. And usually the comic book strips, they use 3 panels. I think those are the most common. And the 1-panel format. I'm almost done. I have one more here. Alright, before I begin, I have decided that I'm gonna make the moon glow. So fortunately I didn't brought my colors today, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to use a marker combining it with a pencil. It gives you a nice full feel. And then I'm gonna show you how to basically fade it out with a pen to give it a nice effect. So let's go ahead and do the moon top. Now I'm gonna go ahead and flip my paper over this way. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start, it's gonna start really dark here. And from there I'm gonna go on a semicircle. Like that, following the format. I'm gonna go ahead and extend it out like so. Go over here. Now again, this is what I recommend. If you're having a hard time drawing from your mind, I recommend looking at pictures from magazines, books, the internet, and they can help you. The proper term for that we use in art is reference. It's basically just getting a picture and using it as a guide to help you with your drawing. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's only reference. We're not basically tracing the picture or making it identical. We're just using part of it to help us with our own drawing. Alright, here's my basic shading of the moon. For some reason, it's glowing. Now, before I start, go ahead and get my eraser and make some effects here. I want certain areas to be lighter. So I'm just going to come back and take a little bit off the edge, like so. And I'm going to go like this, just like that. See, I'm not worried too much about mistakes right now. I can fix it later. Now I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now, we're going to start. We're going to go strong, and every area that I'm going strong, I'm going to go ahead and apply the marker. Okay? So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to create a nice line like this, because I want a nice highlighted on the moon. And then from there, if you remember when we did the spear, we went from dark to light. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go from dark right here, very dark. From that dark, I'm going to go ahead and start pushing it out. Try to keep your pencil lines even. You might be wondering, why is he using pencil if we're going to be using ink, color, and so forth? Well, I'm only going to be using pencil when I apply the marker and pen over it, and when I'm done, you're not going to see it. So for example, this is what I have so far. You notice I went from dark to light. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my marker. Watch what happens. Careful. I'm trying to be careful here because I really don't want to go over that area, because I want to keep it nice and white. And then I go like this, trying to keep it close as possible. And I'm just going to make a few lines like that. Now, you want to let it dry. You don't want to go over it as it's wet. Like that. And then I need to fade it out. So to do that, I'm going to come with this pen here. The reason I don't use this one, and this one right now, because it does release too much ink. So I want to have a better control flow of ink. So I'm going to go ahead and stick to this one for now. As always, you want to get a piece of scratch paper. You want to release some of the ink before you apply it to your work. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now I'm going to come back with my ink pen and I'm going to start fading this out like this. Notice how I keep my pen lines together. Very important. You do not go like that, because they won't work. I'm going to add some more marker, but I'm not going to add it all the way through. I'm just going to add a little bit here, like so, and then I'm going to add some more pencil to it. But when we add pencil, you're not going to see the pencil lines anymore. You're just going to see the darkness of the marker and the pen, which is great when you make copies. It creates a nice contrast. And then right here, I'm just going to start fading it out with my pencil, because the whole point is to fade it out. You might wonder, wow, it seems sloppy. I don't think he's finished. Well, honestly, I'm not. So let's go ahead and finish this. I'm gonna go ahead and get this lighter pencil, and I'm gonna start fading it out like this, keeping the lines together. And then, the beauty of it. I'm going to go ahead and put another paper under it. It creates nice cushion when you use the pen. So I'm going to just come back here and do this. Now I'm going to slow down. I'm going to keep my lines together and go in circles to make the lines fade out. I only recommend to do this method if you have something that's coming from dark to light. You don't have to do this process on the whole thing, but you can apply some of this to your actual work itself. And then what you can also do as you're fading it out like here, you can come with some color pencils and add color. I'm only going to do this small section here because it does take a while. Now I'm going in circles just to make it fade out, and then I'm going to push it back in to here, and then go ahead and start pushing everything out like that. As you're doing this with the pen, try using the eraser as well, like this. It blends. Lightly pressing, it does blend the ink, making it smoother. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that again. I'm coming with my pen. As soon as I apply my pen, you have to do this quick because again the pen does dry quickly. You come with your eraser and just push it out. And then use this. Back and finish this part. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stop, but you can see the difference between this that's not finished and the one that's finished. And can you imagine going all the way around? The effect it will have will be impressive. Now to finish this off, I'm gonna come with my pen. Let's see, I'm gonna see if I can use this one. This one doesn't release too much ink, so I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to try this one here. Alright, I'm going to create some forest stars in the background. I'm just going to go random. I'm going to go like this. Right here, I'm just going to create something like this. Few simple lines. You can also add them here into your value. This one I do not like, so I'll take it off. Now, next thing we need to do, once you do your coloring, once you do your inking process, it's adding words. I don't recommend doing this, writing on your panel, which you can if you want to. You can. The best thing to do is to type your words on Microsoft Word and cut them out. You can cut the strips and just paste them over your drawing. It's a much cleaner process, and it will look much better as opposed to writing over your pen tool. But I'm gonna go ahead and write on this. My first phrase is the earth. So let's go ahead and put that. I'm gonna go ahead and put it right here at the top. Again, the other thing that you can also do if you type this up in Microsoft is the font. You can make the words bigger, small, however you want to. So that's the beauty of computers and technology. You might be able to scan this and work over your drawing, which would be much easier. And I'm just going to put some quotations. Okay. Now, next thing we need to do, we need to ink the words. But before I ink, you need to draw that box. This is the box that I'm talking about. Let's get a comic book here. Some comic books, they have a box. Box is basically when a person is not talking. It's just like a narrator telling the story. But then when persons are talking, they have the bubbles. Okay. So, let me go ahead and draw my box. Again, I'm just gonna eyeball it. That's the beauty of using a clear angle, because you can see through. And put it right about there. Again, you don't want to freehand this, because if you do freehand it, it's not gonna look as well as if you use an angle to do it. Right about there. Now, to do the words, again, you don't want to freehand the words. You want to have something to balance you out. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. I'm going to go ahead and use this. And I'm going to go ahead and start writing the earth. Trying to keep it nice and straight. I'm going to stop there. And my 3 dots. There you have it. There's only one drawback. I will have to white out my star. That's here. And it's not a problem. Just getting the white out and taking that off will completely fix it. And then the other thing you want to do once you finish is at the end, once you finish, is to take it off with the eraser once everything is done. Like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. But again, here I can put my words here as well. I can put more phrases and I can end it up here. But this is the starting process. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you some examples.
Okay, good place to go. Alright.
Alright.
Where do you want me to look?
I'm gonna go ahead and show them this comic book I started. Okay. I don't know if I need to take them off from the sheets.
Let me see here. Oh no, I can see them just fine. The glossy isn't, Okay. Yep, we're good.
Okay.
So you can start whenever you want.
Okay. Okay.
You're good.
Before you start a comic book or your sequential drawing, you want to have something written down. This is a story that I was doing back in 1998. Haven't finished it yet, but one day I will. But this is my comic book. I first did my short story, just 3 paragraphs. I'll go ahead and read the first paragraph, and then I'll show you the process. The cosmos burned bright with stellar formations and heavenly bodies that forge a seemingly endless universe. Within that universe, a place stood out among all the rest. This place had no name, but was teeming with primitive life, an activity that bemused the energy force that descended upon that terrestrial sphere. Entrance to the sphere was hot, but it meant nothing to the energy force which wield immeasurable power. So from there, I broke it down into panels, into several different panels. Here's my first page. Here we have the entity. Notice the Earth and the Moon. Here's my example. I did it the opposite. I did the Moon far away and the Earth close. Here we have the entity coming from the Moon, going into the Earth. Here we have a closer shot of the entity going into the Earth. This is my panel number 2. Panel number 3, I decided to do a closer shot of the being entering the Earth's atmosphere. Let's go ahead and go to the next panel. My next page is 2 panels. I decided to add flames because, again, this entity is going to our atmosphere and does create friction, and it does create flames, and the temperature is hot. So I created a few effects to give us a sense of heat and temperature, and I added whoosh words as well. These are very important, the words that you add to do the effects of your storyboard. Here we have the being, a closer shot into the being, and again here we have the word. In my next page, I broke it down into 4 panels. I did another shot, a closer shot of the being, the full form, and then the being entering the actual Earth, where he hit the Earth. Here's the being as he landed, and here's a closer shot of the being. And again, notice the sound words. Kaboom. Ah. Let's go to the next panel. Here the being stands up. Notice the crack of the Earth. Notice the being, and also when you notice the being, notice the heat coming off from his body. Here he is, a closer shot, and a closer shot on the eyes of what he's looking. He's looking at this. And then from this, I went to the next page and I broke it down to what the being was looking. So I did 3 panels of a battlefield. I did a far shot, a closer shot, and another closer shot of another area on the same place. And then from there, this is my rough draft. I did the being on a hill, looking at a battlefield. But notice my pencil drawings. Notice just quick gestures, lines. This is basically how I start a drawing. I just basically start doing quick sketches, as I demonstrated today with this. And then from there, this is a tricky panel. I used 3 panels on this page, and from that page I decided to make the being's face come out from the panel, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And also, part of it is outside the panel and the other part is on the inside of the panel, which is okay. This is just a quick study of what I'm looking for, but again, this is not finished. Here we have the being going into the direction of the battlefield. He arrives and there's people looking at him. Notice how many panels I use in this area, and notice this last panel here. And this is a splash page. A splash page is when you use 2 pages to create a full scene. In this case, this is the full scene. Here's a warrior, another warrior, another warrior. Here's another warrior here. And within this full scene, there's 3 panels. There's a close-up of this warrior. There's another close-up of this warrior here. And there's a close-up of the warrior here. There are so many ways to do this. And from there, this is where I went. Just a quick sketch, just like I demonstrated today. Just a quick sketch of what I want it to look like. After I do that, then I start defining the lines, defining the panels of the page. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. I should have covered that word. Again, okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now, one of the things I recommend is research before you start the comic book process with your students. Research is very important. I recommend getting local comic books from your local store. The closest store here in the valley is Toys R Us. I believe that's the only place I've seen comic books in the valley. They used to have some at Walmart, but they stopped selling those about 5 years ago. But again, you can find them at Toys R Us in Calexico. Again, look at the panels on different types of comic books. There are other comic books that are very simple. The lines are not they don't have too many lines, and the drawings are basic. Look how the artists use panels to tell a story. Look at this panel here. Look at how small it is. Look how this panel is slanted and going this way. There's so many ways to do panels. Sequential art is, there's no rules in following the format. You can do a 1 panel shot like this. You can do a 6 panel shot, and every single panel does not have to be the same. So the possibilities are endless. Let me just quickly show you another way of doing panels. To do a 5-panel format, you have your story written like here. You base it on your story and you said, how many panels do I need to tell this part of the story? You can use 2 pages, 3 pages, and within those pages you have your panels. Again, that's something that you will have to decide. That's the beauty of it. Again, you will be the creator of your storyboard. To do a 5-panel format, this is one way to do it. Let me get a darker pencil. Actually, I had the right one. You can go like this. You can do 3 panels at the top. The middle can be the largest. Or they all can be the same size. Here's my 3 panel. And then the other panel can be like this. And the other panel here can be the same. There you have it. You have 5 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try another one. How about if we slant? We go this way. And then we go like this. follow your line. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's so many ways to do panels. So basically, it's how you're going to tell a story within that panel. So I hope this information was helpful. And if you need any advice, just let me know. You can find the information with Lori Campos, and I'll be happy to help you in the process. Just let me know, and I'm here for you. Good luck and have fun.